All right, welcome to Talking Investing. I'm Tom. It's the end of the week, live stream. I believe George is going to be joining us. He's on the road. He's in the meeting or in the car. So I think he's going to jump in when he's ready. But for now, we'll go without him. Hope everybody had a good week or a good end of the week. Hey, Eric. Hey, Cameron. Oh, I think I just got a text from George. Let me see what's going on. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. All right. Yeah, he's going to jump in when ready. So, I'm going to go to the 15-minute Bitcoin chart. So this was another green day. Actually, I'm going to go back to the one-day chart to start it off. These are the last 3 days. So, Bitcoin's been on a little bit of run. I don't know if you guys have watched my last few videos. This is what I was hoping for and predicting. So let's see if we can keep going from here. I'm hoping we can go across this. I have a green line at just under 23,000. I'm hoping we can run up to at least that. So we'll see if this momentum keeps through the weekend and into Monday. Because obviously with the miners, it's got to last until Monday, or because I bought some options. So when the CPI number came in and we dipped way down, we got down to 18,892. So I bought a bunch of options at that point because I felt like we were going to run up, and I went through the reasons why in my last couple videos, so you can watch those if you want to. And so far, this has worked out exactly right. However, I don't like it when we bump into the weekend like this because anything can happen over the next 2 days. And I did not liquidate my options, so I have them. I'm hoping we're still running up on Monday. To me, it looks like we got a really nice 2-week window to run. Hi, Malik. Hey, WLG. Hey, Barry. There might be something to the old pi cycle. The pi, yes, says WLG. Somebody asked me about that in our Discord. So if you're not in the Discord, remember to join us in the Discord because we get great questions like that. So because of that, I included it in one of our videos, and I think it's a pretty obscure thing, but you know what? It's only ever the pi cycle bottom just flashed, I think yesterday or the day before, and it's only happened 2 times in the history of Bitcoin. And both of those times were pretty much simultaneous with the bottom of the last 2 bear markets. So, it's a very small sample group is the only thing that I like to say. But the problem is with Bitcoin, a lot of these things are very small sample groups. This has not been around that long. We've only had a few, ultra bear markets, crypto winter type situations. So a lot of things, this is only the 3rd time ever we've been below the 200-week moving average. This is only the 3rd time ever the pi cycle bottom indicator has flashed. So we're getting, and all of those things point towards this being the bottom, which is why it's frustrating, but I've been saying we're bouncing along the bottom, and I've been saying that for about a month, and I'm getting sick of saying it, but I just feel like that's what's happening. And I think that was yet another indicator to try to confirm that we should be near the bottom. Barry says, hi, Tom. Hope you got your Matic. That ran up again like wild. I participated a little bit in that, not to the extent I would have liked, but man, that thing went crazy. Cameron's asking, is Cleanspark lagging? And it depends on what time frame you look at, because the last couple of days it's lagged a little bit, but in general, if you look at all of these, most of these are trending very similar, and Cleanspark is not worse than the average. It did not pull back as much as all the other ones. So it's not moving up as fast, but it didn't have as dramatic a pullback. So it's a little frustrating. That's one of my bigger positions, and, it's creeping along, but it didn't get hit as hard. So this was a green day. If you guys look at the board, this was like every other than Mawson for it. Just, I always say there's always one or two for whatever reason. I looked at Mawson today. I didn't see any reason why that would be down, but it is red. Everything else is green. Bit Digital, it looks like, finished the day at 0. TerraWolf finished at 0.7, and Mawson was red. Everything else was green, and some things were up a lot. I mean, Hut was up 4%. Hive was up almost 9% today. And Riot was up 4.7%, but Marathon was only up 0.5%. But Marathon ran way out ahead of everybody last week, if you guys remember. So, some people are starting to catch up to them a little bit. But, I mean, I can't complain. These last 3 days were great for my portfolio. Hopefully you guys as well. Martin, hey Martin, how are you? So I'm going to go to the 15-minute. I don't know if any of you guys watched my video. I just put a video out like an hour ago, and I'm curious to see people's reaction because it is not my normal video. It was a bit of a rant, but I just want to get everybody else's opinion on that issue, and I'd be interested to see if people agree with me or if I'm off base on that one. So this is the 15-minute time frame. So as always, this was where Bitcoin was when the market closed yesterday. On Thursday, the U.S. equity markets. So we were at like 20,591, and we finished the day over 21,000. So, I mean, we did have a lot of this. This blue line right here is when the markets opened in the U.S. So, we went down for a while. Then we got back up to just right where we started. But the end of the day, these last couple of 15-minute candles was a nice surge at the end of the day. Now we've pulled back a tiny little bit, but I mean, I think this momentum continues. I like this chart. I was very satisfied, right? We stayed above this. We stayed above where we closed yesterday the entire trading day today. So to me, that's a good day. And this is the third day. So if I go back to the 1 day time frame, I mean, this was CPI day. So that came in, not good. But I don't think anybody was shocked by that. CPI was 9.1. We were expecting 8.8, but you could tell by the way everybody was talking that they were expecting maybe some bad news. So I thought that wasn't nearly as bad as it could have been. And I mean, the market recovered in 4 hours. I had put a video out the day before that I thought if it started with a 9 or more, I thought we'd probably have 1 or 2 days of pain, but we had a half a day, and that was it. And we've turned around and headed up. I mean, these are strong moves up. And, we went from below this line was our previous high from the bull cycle in 2017. So that was 4.5 years ago. So in the middle of this week, before the CPI, we had these big down days because people were worried. So it kind of got priced in. And then, boom, we went back above this line of support. And now we're over 21,000. So, but we can't seem to break out of this range. I mean, like since this day, which was June 16th, right? We've really just been in this range. We have not broken out of this at all. So we got to break to one way or the other. Obviously, I think we're all hoping that it's to the upside. And that's why I want to see, like, we very close to got to this 23,000 on July 8th, and that's when we started to get some sideways and then downward pressure heading into the CPI number, I think, is what was going on there. So, but to me, that's where I want to get. If we can get past here, maybe we could run up to 25. I think 25 is more than I'm expecting, but I felt like when we were back down You know, when we got under 19, I thought maybe we could get a nice run up to 23 over the next couple of weeks, but we're moving pretty fast. We're already at 21. Martin says the bottom is near. Cameron says, what are your thoughts on YouTuber MM Crypto? I don't know MM Crypto. It sounds like that's another YouTuber. I'll check him out. I don't know him or her or them or whoever they are. What do you think, Cameron? Or what do they have to say? There's so many YouTubers, it's like a needle in a haystack, but I don't know. Maybe that's somebody huge that I just don't know about. Malik says, nice run before the Fed event. Right, we have, of course, and that's the window of opportunity that I'm talking about. We got 2 weeks, now a week and a half until the Fed minutes. The Fed meets on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then at 2 o'clock on Wednesday, they'll come out and give their rate hike. I am fairly confident it is going to be 75 basis points. I know everybody at first freaked out that maybe it was going to be a full percentage. I honestly don't think it makes a big difference because they don't have a meeting the month after that. So if they end up doing 1%, I think it's only because they feel like this is probably the last shot they have to get ahead of this situation, because that'll be no meeting the next month, and then it's going to be September. And I think by then we're going to be having a different set of problems. We're not going to be raising rates due to inflation. I think the conversation, in my opinion, the conversation will have shifted by then. So whether it's 0.75 or 1.0, I don't think that's a big difference, but I know the market does not like, we haven't had 1.0 in a long, long time. And, obviously this all started out, if you remember, 2 months ago, it was, we're going to do 0.5 and 0.5, and that was pretty much all settled. And then the inflation data just kept coming in worse and worse. So now we did a 0.75, and then it was going to be 0.75, 0.75. I think people panicked a little bit 2 days ago that maybe it was going to pop up to 1. But what do you guys think? Any opinions on, that's a week and a half away. WLG says, to say Bitcoin miners account for a significant amount of carbon emissions is simply false. So thanks for, I think, watching my video, I assume. Yeah, I mean, that's what I went through in my video, and that's why I want to get a reaction. It's like, I just don't understand why they say stuff like that. Like, just stick to the reality, because, I bet you most people agree that, some reasonable regulations, particularly in light of the fact of all these crypto exchanges, over leveraging and melting down. I don't think anybody at this point is gonna be too upset about just some amount of regulations on the exchanges, some amount of regulations, and I think they're gonna find out when they dig in and start putting. And remember, they can't put regulations in on just one company or one industry. So if they're going to have carbon regulations, it's got to be across the board. And my guess is that although we're not where we want to be, I would say that the crypto miners are probably the greenest industry in all of industries. So, there'll be some miners that have some work to do. And that will show through with more transparency. And so, again, I don't think anybody... I don't know. You guys let me know. I'm okay with asking for some transparency and asking for some reasonable regulations to make sure that these exchanges aren't just taking money and doing who knows what with it, because it seems like what they're doing is making it disappear. So, but then you gotta watch the video. You'll see it's just the rhetoric that frustrates me. So I had a rant. I ranted for 10 minutes, and you guys can check that out. Daniel said, Mara came across cash according to last week's PR, speculating as to the source being a discount on their Bitmain order. Thoughts? I mean, that's a good question, because it seems to me like all of the Bitcoin miners, and I'm surprised that this was in their purchase orders or contracts, but it seems like they're all renegotiating the price of their existing purchase orders. So there was some monstrous purchase orders in. But I think that everything has flipped so drastically that it went, for a while, the companies that made these Bitcoin miners, they were in the driver's seat. They were charging whatever they wanted. People were paying a year in advance. And how quickly the tides turned. All of a sudden now you've got, a glut of extra machines. You've got all these companies that said they were going to 15 or 20 exahash, and now they've basically called a timeout. And, I bet there's 400,000 machines purchase ordered that everybody thought was going to be bought and installed this year. That it's not going to happen. It doesn't mean they're never going to be bought. And then others like Marathon, and I've seen 2 or 3 other companies specifically say that they've renegotiated the price that they're buying these machines at. So I don't know if that was a clause in the purchase order or if they're just now simply in a position of leverage where they're saying, look, I know you guys are sitting on massive inventory, and, better to pay us something or better to get paid something than nothing. Alan is saying, long duration bond yield fell on high inflation print. What do you think it means? I have to tell you, I know there's a lot of theory around the bond yields, and I just feel like with Bitcoin, and maybe I'm wrong. I think Bitcoin is starting to find its way. I know it's been heavily associated with and correlated with the NASDAQ, and there's no doubt the bond yields affect the market in general. I think they affect the NASDAQ the least. I think the S&P 500 the most. And also, I really feel like right now is the time that Bitcoin is going to decouple from the NASDAQ, and it's going to start doing its own thing. I feel like that's inevitable. Maybe I'm jumping the gun. Maybe it's not yet. But I think that is inevitable. Colton, hey, how are you? Daniel, how's it going? Daniel says, Core's goodwill accounting shows $1 billion in assets. Makes absolutely no sense to me. According to my math, they are in very rough shape. Thoughts? Yeah. So, that is just an accounting that's you're in my wheelhouse. My background's in accounting, and I used to be a CPA, not anymore for a long time, but that's as a function of a transaction. They must have bought some other company or series of companies, and they're left with, the difference between what they get and what it's worth is put on your balance sheet as goodwill. But effectively, goodwill is an intangible asset. It really has no value. So, yes, that's an inflation of their balance sheet by $1 billion. In theory, if there was a series of patents or other actual intangible things that were sitting behind that goodwill, then maybe you could argue it does have some value. Unfortunately, in Core's case, in my opinion, that's really just $1 billion. They probably, I'm not going to say they overpaid, but that's a premium that they paid. They're never getting it back. And yes, they have $1 billion in debt on the other side. So I think of all the companies, Core's is the one that, on one token, they're by far the biggest. And, they're minting the most Bitcoin per month by a mile. But on the other token, they're leveraged worse than anybody. They're almost completely leveraged. There's not much borrowing that they can do at this point with the amount of debt that they already have on their books. And they just dumped like 80% of their Bitcoin at what may turn out to be like the absolute bottom. So I feel like that's never a good thing. That was nobody's plan. Also, I feel like you got to do what you got to do. So there were a few companies, and one of them is one of my personal favorites. Bitfarms did have to sell half their Bitcoin at a number that I can guarantee you that was never the plan, but at least it wasn't plan A, but it's the circumstances that they ran across. So, you know, you do what you got to do. I'm personally not invested in cores. I got in, I lost a little bit of money, and I got out. So, that's one of those long-term deals. If they can make it through this, and there's a lot more companies. I've been doing deep dives on each one of these companies, and if, hey, we gotta hold on.
Hello.
We got company.
How you guys doing? I'm watching Fox News, and I'm started yelling at the TV, and I said, wait a second. I know. Why am I yelling at the TV when I can get thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people to watch Tom?
Millions of people. That's right. You're live. Welcome.
How are you guys? Everybody good? Sorry, I had to work my day job.
I think everybody's doing good. It was a third green day in a row, so I got the chart on the board showing 3 green days. Of course, that was after 3 red days, so we're not even back to where we started, but we're getting there.
They're talking about the June retail sales and how they're up 1%. I said inflation's up 9%, idiots, and it's up 1%. That means it's down. Sorry. That's my rational brain talking.
I don't know what's going on with those numbers. Victor says, hi, just wanted to pop in and say a huge thanks for the content you're sharing. Stumbled upon your channel a couple of weeks ago and quickly subscribed, straight to the point and factually correct. Thank you, Victor. I appreciate that very much.
I tell Tom this all the time. But thanks, Victor.
WLG says, hey, George is in the house.
You've reached the in the hizzy.
You're breaking up.
So here's my question, Tom.
Okay, now I can hear it. You guys let me know if you can hear George.
When will Bitcoin take off? When will Bitcoin take off?
I think we got a little more sideways action coming ahead, and you know, one more test of the lows, and then I think that's potentially the next Fed meeting. We could get beat up a little bit. This is how I'm playing it. And if I get burned, I get burned. I try to make a little bit of money with options while I'm dollar cost averaging into all of my positions. So I did buy a bunch of options with the concept that I think for the next week and a half now, we're going to have a little run up and then we're probably going to get whacked again. So that's my thoughts.
When do you think Bitcoin will separate? Will it be this year? That's my question.
Yes. In fact, right before you got on, I was saying I might be jumping the gun, but I really feel like we're in the process of that right now. And I think before the end of the year, Bitcoin will be on its own path, and it will it should not be it is correlated to the NASDAQ right now for whatever reason, but it shouldn't be. That doesn't make sense. And it hasn't always been this close of a correlation, and I think we're almost at the end of that. I think Bitcoin's getting it's bottoming out. It's going through its bottoming process. Yeah, we might retest one more time, maybe 2 more times, but I feel like this is the bottom. And this may not be the bottom for stocks.
Oh, you know what? Knowing we're almost the end of July, I mean, we're sitting in a really good spot for some growth.
For some growth in
the stock market.
You think we're ready for growth?
I don't know, because I know that to think that the interest rates are going to go up 1%, I just can't even imagine.
Well,
can you imagine?
I know. We were talking about that a little bit. They don't have a meeting the month after. So to me, that is one of the reasons I think they might, and I don't even know that they're going to do it. Bing Bong
It
says
makes-
George's mic sounds really rough.
I know. My phone, I dropped it in the toilet the other day. I'm serious. I can't make this stuff up. I really did. I dropped it in the toilet.
That
But
was
I
not,
did the 5-second rule.
that was not what I was expecting to hear.
You know, I did the 5-second rule. I ended up within 5 seconds, so it was okay.
Well, as long as it still
I-
works.
I put it in rice. Have you heard about that?
Oh, yeah.
I put it in rice. Of course, I ate the rice afterwards, but
I was at a friend's house and I had my phone went in the water and they had no rice. So I put it in couscous and that did not work at all. Apparently, although they look similar, that is not the same effect.
that was funny.
So that phone was ruined.
I can't tell you my new joke, but
Uh-oh.
people be careful out there. Monkeypox is real. Monkeypox is real. That's all I can say.
Oh, boy.
I
That
can't
is-
say anything more except monkeypox is real.
Well, that's why I keep isolated. I don't leave the house much. Steven is saying, why is Bitfarm down so much if they are producing a lot? BTBT is even higher than Bitfarm. So BTBT is higher. Their stock price is higher. But I just want to make a good point out of this because a lot of these Bitcoin miners have run down to about $1, but they all have a very different amount of shares outstanding. So Bitfarm's market cap is still much higher than Bit Digital. However, having said that, yeah, Bitfarms is lagging. They are definitely being punished for selling 3,000 Bitcoin. There's just no question. I think everybody's going to get over it and they will catch up. But for the last, since they did that, they've been lagging for no reason. I've been buying, so not financial advice. You guys do whatever you want. I've been buying, I've been dollar cost averaging in and
One of the
buying
miners.
Bitfarms options. So I think that they're being punished for that, and nobody's glad that they had to do that, but I think they did what they had to do, and they're set going forward, in my opinion. So I think they will catch up. I'm adding to my Bitfarms position. I feel like this is just an opportunity where it's oversold, in my opinion. Bit Digital, I did do a video on this week, so you can check that out. They are doing much, much better. Having said that, they're not even in the neighborhood of the quality of company that Bitfarms is, in my opinion. And obviously their production is, maybe 15% of what Bitfarms Bitfarms production is killing it. So, and their growth.
Well, and also transparency too, Tom.
Yeah. As far as just their monthly updates and because Bit Digital has now started giving monthly updates. So they did not do that. And there was a year where
That's good.
it was just like, what is going on here? And I did some videos like, just tell us something. If the news is bad, just tell us. And they finally did do that. And since then, they've been putting out monthly updates for the last 2 months. So now they're not good. From a production standpoint, the updates are not good. Go ahead. You totally faded out. I don't know if you can re-ask your question. Can you please restate the question?
Speaking from a production update, their own pool.
Marathon? Are
Is
you asking about?
back in their own pool?
They are not.
Yes, Marathon. They
So
are
Marathon
not,
is not yet using their own pool. Their pool is still at 0 for the month. So I expect them to have very little production in July. We will see. Daniel just mentioned on the chat, for Mara, FERC approval is typically a 3 to 4 month process. We are now midway through the month. We are now midway through month 4. Thoughts on the probability and timing of this approval going through and their Texas facility going live? The first thing is, I think, as it turns out, this was not the plan, but as it turns out, you know, they couldn't pick a better 4 months to fall behind because, you know, with Bitcoin at 20,000, it's not like people are minting money right now.
So,
Having said that, I with the government, until you get a yes, I have a lot of experience in permitting at the local and state level, and not so much at the federal level. But I can tell you, I've had things take a year and a half that I was told were going to take 6 weeks. So I just until that's done and it's on, I'm not even putting a date on it. It could never happen. Just ask the people in New York.
yeah, poor people.
Martin saying, I am buying Bitfarms too. It's a no-brainer. WLG says, George sounds like Atari.
I sold 100,000 coins in Bitfarm. I mean, 100,000 stock. What?
Yes.
What, a month ago?
On the 29th.
The 29th. So I don't know how I'm going to do, but I'm buying them back soon.
Well,
I'm
they're still
waiting.
under. Here, let me go there for a second. So that the world can keep track of when George sold his Bitfarms.
I want to say it was like 134 or 135. I don't know.
On the 29th, Bitfarm ranged from $1.14 to $1.26.
Oh, well, I guess I sold it lower.
Is it possible you sold it on the 28th?
Yes, there's a very good likelihood it was the 28th.
Because that was $1.27 to $1.43.
Yeah, I sold it at 134.
I did. That's what I remember. It was somewhere in the $1.30 something.
Yeah.
So
where is it now?
we're at $1.17 right now. So we will keep our eye on Bitfarm and see if you pick the right month.
Good winner. That could be the winner chicken dinner.
This is not financial advice, but George, I did look at that 30-day rule, and you have to wait the full 30 days. So it's the 31st day.
Okay. So I got to get in on Monday then. Okay.
Yeah, that is not financial advice to the rest of the world. Ask your CPA for investment advice, etc. Mr. Charles says, any significant downside for Mawson with Celsius Mining filing bankruptcy? Seems like it was mostly just a hosting agreement and some exchange of shares. Do I have that right? Thoughts? Yes, and I think that, you know, I guess Mawson was the only thing read today. And, you know, with a lot of these guys, I question this formula with hosting because if you look at the hosting agreements, with the exception of one company that says they do all of their hosting at cost plus, so, you know, if you're cost plus, then you can't be losing money because, you know, unless you don't get paid at all. But almost every single hosting company loses money on their hosting. I think most of these companies, most of these Bitcoin miners do it just because it helps them scale up, and eventually their plan is to get out of all of that. So I think their only exposure is what you said, probably some lost revenue in hosting, and I don't know, maybe we'll see.
Have you heard more about Compass or no?
I haven't heard anything else about Compass. There are no news that I'm aware of. I will tell you this, Mawson has not put out their monthly, to get back to Mr. Charles, Mawson has not put out their monthly operational update. And they're the last ones, they're usually last, but they usually get it out on the 15th. It did not come out today unless it's come out in the last half hour. So it may be that they're trying to understand their situation a little better before they do their monthly update. because I'm patiently waiting. All of my other charts I want to do and videos, I'm trying to wait for Mawson so they can be included. But if they're not, I might just go on without them and just have to leave them out. So let's go back to Bitcoin. No, I want to go to the 15-minute. All right. Uh-oh, our stream was having a negative impact on Bitcoin. But it's turned around now. We're at 20,945. So we were holding, I was hoping we'd hold 21,000, and really I was hoping we'd get above this green line, which goes back to July 10th. So that's only 5 days ago. So it'd be nice to start turning that into support, but at the moment it looks like maybe we got a little bit rejected. But this is on a 15-minute time frame, so it's going to take all weekend to figure out where we're going. I still feel like I'm going to go to the 4-hour because that's where I really see a lot of room for Bitcoin to run. So I'm going to get rid of this. This was the market open today. So, you know, we had this run from oversold up to here to overbought. And if I feel like that's what's happening again right now. So we're at 59. We have a long way to go. On the 4-hour, this could easily get up to 80. So this is what I'm hoping for. That's the run I'm looking for. And then on the 1 day, so on the 1 day, this arrow is an exact copy of this arrow. So this is what we did from May to June, when we had a little bit of a run up in the RSI, but then we kind of got rejected here at 50. So we seem to be doing something similar. We're at 47 on the daily RSI. So we got to get over 50. That's where Bitcoin starts to run up. When this daily RSI gets over 50, we get a run up typically almost every time. It's directly correlated. We get a nice run up in Bitcoin. So even if it's only for a period of time, that's what I'm looking for. And that's why I bought some options. So I don't recommend that. If you don't know options, don't mess with them. If you do know them, then you know what you're doing. So let's see. Jeff, Tom, George, hello. Hey, Jeff, welcome. Welcome to what should be a party. This was the third green day in a row. I definitely... There's definitely been a serious lack of enthusiasm in the Bitcoin community this week. So I'm not sure if everybody's just worn out of going sideways or what's going on, but I'm going to stretch this out so it looks better. Look, that's 3 green days in a row. These are daily candles. I mean, that's 3 solid green days in a row. So we are moving in the right direction. Did you guys make money this week? Who did something? Let's hear from the chat. Who made money? Did anybody dollar cost average in? Did anybody sell? What's everybody doing? And while we're at it, don't forget to please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell if you want. But mostly subscribe to the channel if you would. If you're not already subscribed, we would appreciate that. And while we're talking about it, you can join us on our Discord where we have a lot of good conversations. And sometimes we get some firsthand information in there that's unique to our Discord. So come join us. George is what's happening?
I'm playing with the dog.
Oh.
Oh, get out of there. Stop it. Stop it. No. He's chewing on my water bottle.
George has twin dogs. Are those twins?
No, I'm at a friend's house. Hey.
Oh, that's somebody else's dog?
Uh-oh, now it's a big old tree. Hey, I got your tail. Look, see, I got his tail. Stop chewing my water bottle. I don't want it.
Martin's saying it bought 500 of, I think Bitfarms, and 300 of Riot, and 400 of Hut. So I will tell you, Martin, those are the exact 3 that I have been dollar cost averaging into the heaviest over the last 3 weeks. So I feel like I'm on the same page as you. I have been adding to some other positions, but those 3 in specific have been the ones I've dollar cost averaged in the most to. Those are the 3 I feel the best about. And it's just mostly, particularly with Riot and with Hut, it's a balance sheet thing. Their balance sheets are just awesome. And a performance. You know, Riot has a lot of production going, although they're doing some, everybody's taking this opportunity while Bitcoin is down around 20,000 to decommission the machines they were going to decommission, move the machines they were going to move. Riot's moving a lot of machines, I think all of their machines, out of New York into Texas, where they will host their own machines.
That might not be a good move.
Well, this week, Texas is having their own issues. So, yeah, Texas asked all the Bitcoin miners to please shut down this week. So,
yeah, I would have been like giving them the. I won't say that. Never mind. ESG, baby.
So there's some of these miners that are what they call behind the fence, and they're providing themselves their own electricity. So I'm wondering if they also do a curtailment and start kicking into the grid, even though they're getting their own energy, or do they just keep doing their thing? I don't know the answer to that.
I would think it would have to be like an emergency order or something like that.
I don't know. Well, I know they got a big problem, so they did something. Joshua is saying, I'm buying mostly Romeo this week. Yeah, Romeo's on fire. Well, that could be an overstatement, but Romeo's having a nice run, which is good to see. Romeo had so much negative momentum going, and they did have a press release. They had, I think, a new customer or some type of positive thing happen. Their initial pop was on nothing, and then they're very strange communicators. They had a day where they were up like 26%, and then after the day was over, they put out a press release, and it basically didn't say anything other than we're excited about moving into our new place. And it's like, why are you just, if you don't have anything to say, don't say anything. But subsequent to that, I think they did announce a new customer, and it looked like they were in, I was deeply concerned they were in the death spiral. I mean, they were at near 40 cents. So they're now at 58, it looks like. So that doesn't sound great, but that's a lot better than being in the low 40s. That's a big improvement. So Martin's saying been buying a couple hundred every week. Jeff is buying CleanSpark. So that's another one of my favorites. Not financial advice, just my opinion. Martin says, me too. Moving one problem state to another, says Jeff. Yeah, that's about right. I mean, New York's got its issues with Bitcoin mining, and Texas right now has its issues with energy. They got to get themselves straightened out in Texas. They have so much energy down there. It's like they can't handle it in the summer, and then all their stuff freezes in the winter. They got to get ahead of this. Eli's saying, waiting to get a position in Marathon. Me too. Me too, and I'm super conflicted about Marathon because I have
going anytime.
For operationally speaking, obviously Marathon's just had one bad month after the next, after the next, after the next. But they do have all those machines. I mean, it could be that I don't remember who said earlier. We're in month 4 of this process. Maybe maybe they get their tax exemption and whatever it is they're looking for, and you know, all these machines are turned on by September. If that's true, then they're going to be at 10 exahash and they're going to be killing it. So I don't know. That's one of those, like, win or lose. So I've tried to say to the stay to the safer picks, but the Marathon stock owners might have the last laugh. Joshua said, I bought in initially at 45. What was Joshua saying that he bought in? Oh, that's rough. I think you're talking about Romeo. At 45 or 45 cents or $45, because that's how high Romeo was a while back. And Canoe, which I pronounce wrong, I'm aware of that. So you guys can... So this is funny because, so Joshua asked, what about Canoe, or however it's pronounced, Go EV. I think that, you know, and I've been toying with, I think George had to go. Let me switch over to single mode. So I was going to do a video, and I may still do a video on this. I have big concerns about this company. They got a big deal, mainly because it's with a name everybody knows, right? They got a big order from Walmart. I'm calling it a big order. It was 4,500 trucks, I think, with the potential to be a total of 10,000. And I'm calling them trucks, but they're like last mile delivery type vehicles. But the problem is, so that's good. Obviously, that's good. It's good to get a relationship with somebody like Walmart. If they have a good relationship there, you know, there may be some more support in the future. But the problem with this company is they're almost out of money, and they're going to need to raise money. They're either through debt or equity. They don't, I mean, unless they know something I don't know, their cash burn rate is not going to last them very long at all. Like, they got to, I should look, but I bet you they have a going concern clause in their auditor's opinion. I don't know that, so don't quote me on that, but I will double check that. But I'm looking at the math, and they're going to, I'll look at what Yahoo says. This isn't always exactly perfect, but yeah, like total cash is $109 million. Operating cash flow is negative $367 million. So, you know, by that math, they got 1 or 2 quarters left and they have no cash. Their stock did have a gigantic run up, but, you know, it's still trading very low. So I feel like there's going to be a pullback. I feel like there's going to be dilution. There's going to be a pullback when people realize there was exuberance on this Walmart deal. There's no doubt, and that is a good deal. But here's the other thing: these guys have never their revenue lifetime to date is 0, so they've never actually manufactured and completed a sale. So it looks like they're getting ready to do that. However, with these, if you guys, those of you who are in the EV electric vehicle world, almost every single electric vehicle company that's ever existed, their first couple of years, it costs them more money to make the car than it does than they sell it for. So if they're in that situation, they were already in a negative cash flow, ready to run out of money. Now they got to make cars and possibly sell them at a loss. And I am speculating. Maybe, you know, maybe these guys got it and they're actually going to have gross profit on their cars. I don't think there's been another one that has done that with their first set of cars. But, you know, you can check that out for yourself. But either way, I'm saying I feel like there's a lot of this company right now. I would be sooner to buy puts on this company pulling back than I would be to buy it at this price. That's my personal opinion. Having said that, when stuff starts to run, sometimes it just has a big run, so this could get a big run. Obviously, today it pulled back a bunch, but it was up huge. should show. Yeah, I mean, you can see, look at this is like a cliff. It jumped from $2.36 to, $4.63. And that was just strictly on the Walmart deal. So that's a gigantic jump. I'm concerned that there might be some pullback in the meantime. That would be my guess. Daniel's saying, if FERC does not get approved, thoughts on Mara's pivot to secure hosting capacity outside of CN and the timing of mining deployment. Perhaps a hosting deal with financially strapped Riot or Cores. Yeah, I mean, there are some... I mean, Cores has a lot of capacity, and Riot obviously is building a massive amount of capacity. So that's why I'm saying, like, with Marathon, I do think it's going to go one way or the other. The worst thing they're in right now is in limbo. If they're not going to get in there, it would be better off to just know it and go to plan B right now, because they will get all those machines. I feel very strongly. They also have... The other side of Marathon is their financial situation. Their balance sheet is very strong, and they're not going anywhere, and they have the cash to get them however long it takes to get these machines plugged in. So a part of me feels like it is inevitable that these machines will be plugged in, but the other investment part of me, I just can't bring myself to invest in a company that's, I would say, 10 straight months into underperforming versus what they said they were going to do. So operationally, that's just not a good track record. But when I look at their balance sheet, I go, you know what? If things, maybe it's just one of these bad runs where, everything that can go wrong did go wrong, and maybe it's all going to come together and it's going to be a Grand Slam home run. So those machines will get plugged in somewhere. I don't know when. It could take a while. I think, look at Bit Digital. It took Bit Digital. Bit Digital to me is a mini Marathon. Bit Digital had to move all their machines from China, and it was a little over a year ago now. So they were reportedly at 2.3 exahash in April of 2021. They were down to 0.3 exahash in April of 2022. So it was a year later. They still didn't have the majority of their machines plugged in. Now, also, some of you will know there's a short report that said a lot of those machines weren't real. I also question what's the make and model of those machines. They did buy 10,000 new S19s. So they do have 1 exahash worth of new machines. They are now back up over an exahash. They just now... So my point of that was, in their June update, for the first time, they went from 0.35 exahash to, by July 12th, I think they were at over 1 exahash. So only now are they finally starting to get things plugged in. So it can take time. And a lot of the places, ask DigiHost, they ran into a big problem in New York. In fact, Bit Digital and DigiHost together ran into a problem in New York. So, a lot of these things are just taking longer than expected, and I suspect nobody's in that big of a hurry because Bitcoin's at $20,000 right now. So, I don't think there's no sense of urgency to get any of this done. Martin says, I'm buying BYD. Is the most growth EV stock. So yeah, I mean, I'm in a bunch of the EV stocks. I'm not in BYD, but that's a good one. Hello, Min. If that's pronounced wrong, I apologize. Welcome. I'm surprised the miners didn't move too much today. Yeah, I mean, this is a couple of days in a row where I feel like Bitcoin's been behaving very well. The miners are a little bit stuck. Let's go back to the board. So, I mean, everything was, other than Mawson, everything was green from top to bottom. But it could have been better action than this. I totally agree. It was the last couple of days in a row, we didn't get quite as much action on the Bitcoin miners as we did even on Bitcoin. And we should be getting extra action because, you know, we certainly get punished on the down days, so we should get rewarded on the up days. I don't know what's going on in the chat. We've been invaded, and I'm not technologically advanced enough to stop it. Okay, so Danielle says, thanks for your insight, Tom. I am a Mara bull and believe these machines will eventually be installed. This Bitcoin bear market has effectively bought them time. Yeah, I mean, it couldn't have come. I agree, Daniel. I don't know if I said that earlier. The timing couldn't have worked out better for them. And to some extent, I almost have been wondering, you know, are they dragging their feet? Now, with the getting the tax, that sales tax thing or whatever it is straightened out, that's outside of their control. But it's almost like they shut down their existing machines that were running. They stopped their own pool. And it may be no coincidence that this is just, you know, this is a tough time. And they're anticipating it's going to end and trying to line up, you know, trying to line it up properly. Oh, I pronounced it right. Thank you. And yeah, we got super punished on down days. That's right. We need to get rewarded because we get crushed. The miners get beat up on Bitcoin down days. So they need to have an appropriate upside when we get a run like this. And I do think, if I go back to the one-day chart, I do think if we can just break out of, again, I'm just going to put this little box here. I feel like we're stuck in this box. If we could break out of this box, I think the miners would have a huge run up. But the top of this, in my opinion, we got to get to this line just under 23,000. I think if we break through that line, you're going to see the miners have a very nice run. I don't know that that's going to happen. I feel like we got a couple of week window here to make it happen. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm looking for, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. But you can see, I mean, other than that, it's been like, you know, we're down, up, down, up, down. Now we're halfway up. We've gone nowhere. And that's the better part of a month. So I feel like that's what's happening. Colton, hello, hello, welcome. Let me get rid of all that nonsense. So we got 3 green days in a row, but again, it's like great, except for the fact that the 3 days before that were red, and we're not even back to where we were from those red 3 days. So like this 6 days of trading was nothing. So we got to break out of that. We got to get out of the top of this. And to me, that's 23,000, which is asking a lot, but I think we got a shot at it. Do you think this rally is going to happen this week? I mean, I think it is this week. Yes, I will tell you. So for me, I bought right down here a couple of days ago when everything tanked in that first. It was very quick. Bitcoin tanked when CPI came out, and you know, within 4 hours, we were back to where we started. But I bought a bunch of options in that time, and I have not sold any of them. I bought calls. I bought long calls, mostly in Bitfarms. So I'm holding them because I believe this rally is going to continue next week. So if it doesn't, I'm going to get burned. If it does, then, you know, maybe I can make a little bit. And I just try to make a little here and there on options. I don't go too crazy. You know, when I think there's a run up, I'll buy them. If I think, you know, the reverse, then sometimes I'll sell them, but I'm feeling like everything is pointing towards some decent action for the next 1 to 2 weeks. So up to the time the Fed talks, because usually it doesn't matter what they do. Once Jerome Powell gets a half hour into his speech, the market starts going the wrong way. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm on record. I am not expecting 1%. I'm expecting 75 basis points. I would not be shocked with 1, but either way, I really don't think it makes a big difference either way, in my opinion. But I know the market reacts massively to those minor shifts. And particularly since all this started out way back when at, you know, they were going to do a couple of 0.5s, 50 basis points. Now it could be 50-50 could turn into 75-100. So I guess, you know, that is a big difference. But also I'm on record and I did a video saying I think by the end of the year they're going to be lowering rates. Or at least that's going to be the main thing they're talking about. They may not yet actually lower them, but they're going to use, because that is one of the tools that they have in their bag, is to start talking about lowering rates. And I think that's where we're going to be at by the end of the year, and they're going to start having to pull those tools out of the bag. And the first one's going to be, hey, maybe at the next meeting we're going to lower rates. The last few days have been pretty good. Yeah, most definitely. And Kirby's saying we've gone nowhere for 7 months. Yeah, we've gone right. We've gone in the wrong direction heavily for the last 7 months. It's I'm sure everybody is equally frustrated with that period of time for Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. But, I mean, this is worse than I thought it was going to be. I thought this, not this line. I thought this line. I thought this line would hold. This was the high from the previous bull cycle. We've never broken below that line before. So you can see we've done so several times this time. So that did surprise me. We went further down than I thought we would. And really, I never thought we'd get to this line. I thought around 28.8 I thought was going to hold. And that just broke all at once. And we just ran right down to under 20,000. So I guess nothing would surprise me. But you're right, Kirby. There's been 7 bad months. So all we can hope for is that somewhere on the other side of that, there's 7 good months. Right now, I'll take 1 good month. We did have a very nice run. We can have, in Bitcoin cryptocurrency can have huge runs. If you guys remember, in 2 weeks at the end of March, we ran all the way up to 48,000. So, like, things can happen fast. And if we get one of those kind of runs, and sitting here at 20, all we got to really do, if we somehow run back up to 30, you could see these Bitcoin miners start to change drastically. So I don't know that that's going to happen. I do believe that's going to happen before the end of the year. That's my opinion. What do you think of Digital Turbine? Have you looked into ticker? It's APPS. I have not looked into that ticker, so I'll have to just open that window so that I can do that after. I take it by your asking that you like this. $1.6 billion market cap. Mobile growth platform for advertisers, publishers, carriers. I'll have to dig into these guys and see what they look like. So, I don't know. Is this a hot stock that I'm just missing? At the moment, I'm so unbelievably fixated on the Bitcoin miners and the small cap EV stocks. I've really been digging deep into as well. So there's some names I might be oblivious to right now. Anybody got any questions? Sounds like we're winding down, so I may wrap it up for the week, unless anybody's got any other thoughts or any other questions. I hope everybody had a good week. The last 3 days were green, 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 so hopefully, I'm hoping we're headed in the right direction. I'm hoping the rally continues next week. I'm shooting for 23,000. I'm not even going to give downside scenarios. I'm looking to keep running, and I'm hoping we get to 23,000. So those are my short-term goals for Bitcoin. And I think if we do get to that 23,000, especially if we can run up a little bit past that, I think we'll really start to cook with the Bitcoin miners. Martin's saying my goal is getting break even on miner stocks until the end of the year. Yeah, I mean, it depends how everybody's dollar cost averaged in, but it would be nice to be break even. I'm not at break even in any of my stocks. I've made some money buying and selling options, but from a dollar cost average standpoint, I'm not back to break even at anything. That would be very nice. There's a couple I'm getting close to because I started buying them much later. Do you think Riot will surpass Marathon? So Riot, actually, their market cap for like 2 days, 2 weeks ago, jumped ahead of Marathon, and then all of a sudden Marathon had this gigantic run out of nowhere. So, yeah, I think they, in the past, it hasn't always been Marathon. And in fact, for a while, they were both behind Core Scientific. Now Core Scientific has dropped drastically. They're way beneath Marathon and Riot. And I do see those guys trading the top spot potentially. And it's going to be a long time before Marathon's mining more than Riot. But if they got enough machines that they currently own and they're in physical possession of that they could ramp up, in 2, 3, 4 months, all of a sudden it could be a very different story. Yao, I believe, is saying, sorry if I mispronounced that, since Bitfarms is $1, isn't buying the shares pretty much the same exposure as the options with less risk? So I have been also dollar cost averaging into Bitfarms. I bought some at $1.10, and I think that was yesterday. So yes, I have been averaging into that, but there are a few short terms that I'm buying for 8 or 9 cents. If you can go from 8 cents to 50 cents in a month, then, that's what is that, 4 or 5x. So it's more dangerous because you're just as likely to go from 8 cents to 0. But, and I do that with a lot less money. With my real investments, I'm dollar cost averaging into, and I have continued to. With Bitfarms, every time Bitfarms gets down near $1, I buy some more. Samuel says, I would like to have your honest thoughts on how important the E in ESG will be in the next 3 to 5 years. It's the only thing holding me back from HUT. I do have some HUT, but limited position. I think ESG. So that's a multiple part question, which I'm going to just try to give a real answer to. ESG is 2 different things. There's the real actual ESG, which is companies trying, to do the right thing environmentally and socially and with their own governance. And then there's the investment ESG, where everybody's got an ESG score and, you will be judged. And by whom, I don't understand. What their formula is doesn't seem to make sense to me. Also, I don't think anybody in the investment world and the people that, are moving the markets, I don't think they care about SG. I think they care about E, or at least they say they care about E. But, if you watch my rant today, I did a video today and it was a rant. And I think that gives a little bit of my position. I'm all for doing, obviously the environment is a big issue. That is not going away. And we're moving towards greener solutions. I think the Bitcoin miners, HUT is fairly green. If you take HUT as a company versus, just pick another 100 random companies, they'll be more green than probably 95 of the 100 you pick at random. They're not at 100% green, but remember, the world is still at 80% fossil fuels. So, that's something that this whole ESG argument, I feel like that's the disingenuous part of the ESG argument. It is just a fact the world is at 80% fossil fuels. And China currently uses more coal right now, 5 times more coal than the United States ever did at their absolute peak. So, if we're going to have a conversation about the environment and what companies should be held to, how can you yell at HUT if they're doing, potentially 1/1,000,000th of what, China is doing in burning coal? So I want it to be a more honest conversation. And if it is, I think we'll have better results. The more we talk about that, I think everybody, if and when we get regulations, I think that's going to help settle this ESG situation that is putting a lot of downward pressure on stocks. And if we get reasonable regulations, I think we'll get some more transparency. I think that we'll continue to move towards green energy, and all of that is the right thing. I don't think this is going to be a roadblock for stocks like HUT over the long term. I do think that they're being held back temporarily right now, but I think that will end when the U.S. regulations come into place. Then there's going to be clearly defined parameters, and we've just watched a bunch of these crypto exchanges crumble. So I think anybody's going to have a hard time arguing against regulations. I'm not a regulations person in general, but it can't just be chaos. So we need some regulations. I think they'll get to a healthy place, and I think that ESG is really just I think that's what, particularly, I know all of the CEOs in the Bitcoin mining industry feel it's got nothing to do with SG, it's just E, and I think that will abate itself as we get regulations and we move forward, in my opinion. So we'll see. How big a problem is Core's debt? They do mine a ridiculous amount of Bitcoin every month. So yeah, I mean, Course has $1 billion in debt, and it comes due. None of it's imminent. I think it starts coming due in 2024, but it's a lot of interest. They have a decent interest rate on it, but it's a lot of interest. It's a lot of debt to carry. At Bitcoin $40,000, I don't even think anybody's talking about Core's debt. At Bitcoin $20,000, it is worrisome to me. I got out of them even at this unbelievably low price that they're trading at. And let's put it this way. If they survive, we're not going to believe there was a day they were trading in the $1 range. I mean, they're at, if I look right now, where are they? They're at $1.56. So if they make it to the other side, and I think there's a very good chance of that, yeah, I think they'll probably go up huge. However, if we turn around and we're at Bitcoin 10,000, there's going to be some companies that can't handle that, and they might be one of them. Samuel says, haven't watched your rant video yet. We'll do, yeah, check out after this one if you guys want to check out. It's a short video, and I just want everybody to have a more, just like this person, just like Samuel asked me, what's your honest opinion? I wish everybody would just be honest about this, because everybody's opinion is probably very similar. I don't think there's a lot of people out there that hate the environment and want bad things. I think everybody wants to move in the right direction. It just, I think we just have to come up with a reasonable plan to do so, not just fear, uncertainty, and doubt and accusations. So, Samuel's asking, so do you attribute any value to Bitfarms or Hive using greener energy than others when you rank them against one another? So, I mean, there's a perfect example. If you look at Bitfarms, Hut 8, and Hive, their stock has performed, I won't say identically, but extremely, extremely similar since their high on November 8th, 9th, or 10th, whatever the case may have been for each one of those stocks. They're all down about 90%. So those companies that are almost 100% green, they're getting nothing for it right now. So that's my issue. It's like, it's not, that's why I feel like it's not an honest conversation. Why isn't anybody saying, hey, CleanSpark's 90+% green? CleanSpark's great. Or Hut, Hive says they're 100% green. So, why aren't they getting credit for that? Some of it may be we need a mechanism to prove that and verify it and have some type of audit. I don't want to get into too much over-regulation where it's prohibitive, but yeah, it would be nice to know. But I think I think it's pretty fair to say you can see Hive's operations. They're hydro. They use hydro for almost everything. So, and Bitfarms right now. Bitfarms is going to do some stuff in Argentina that I don't even think they've started yet, that will be natural gas, but from the beginning of time until now, they've been all hydro. They get no benefit for that. They get no credit for that. They're still down 90%, just like all the other Bitcoin mining stocks. So that's why I'm saying I think it's just being used as FUD right now, and we'll get to the real part of it. So yeah, I try to, if there's companies that are not transparent at all, that don't have a plan, all I want to see from a company is, here's what we're doing, here's the sources of our energy. That's transparency. Disclose them. Even if they're not green, disclose them to us and tell us what your plan is to get more green. And if that's a reasonable plan, then to me, I'm okay with that. Marathon said they're going to be 100% green by the end of the year. Now, I don't know how they're going to do that. Right? They're shutting down. All their machines were running on coal. So I know that plant was going to be shut down 100% by the end of the year. So, but they're moving to Texas. I did not think that was 100% green energy in Texas. So I don't know. Samuel's saying, in other words, do you think they have an edge? I think it can't. Absolutely. The further ahead you are on things like this, that could be a potential catalyst if and when these stocks start to run up. Perhaps the ones that are more green are going to have a better run than the ones that are a little more ambiguous that we don't know as much about. So a lot of it's transparency. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm invested in the Canadian companies, and they're mostly hydro. So, but by the same token, Riot I'm invested in Riot, and they have a mix. But there's where, Riot has made the argument, and they sent a letter to Congress. What about the SG? They do a lot of S and a lot of G, but it doesn't seem like that counts for anything. Samuel's saying, your last point is exactly why I'm torn. I just don't know how to value for myself how valuable the 100% green energy is, but I agree. I guess we'll see when the regulations come. So I think that's the bottom line. Jeff is saying, I'll get hyped on ESG and the E when local utility companies are held to that standard. Otherwise, let us individually and corporately make market choices. Right. That's a reasonable position to have. And it comes back to my statement that the world is 80% fossil fuel. So if everybody, that means on the average, every single industry, whatever industry you pick, throw a dart at a board, odds are they're 80% fossil fuel, because that's what the world is right now. So why does this one industry have to be 0% fossil fuel? It's an unreasonable expectation. Samuel's saying that's a great point. Transparency is key. That's to me, that's the whole thing. And that's what I think that's what the regulations in the US are going to end up getting to is, hey, you need to be transparent. We want to know exactly what your energy sources are. Some, hopefully not too overly elaborate audit to verify that. And, then everybody knows what's going on. And when we know, we can all make our own educated decision, right? It's a free market. People can invest in whatever they want. Eric is saying, hey, Eric is saying the green thing is nonsense. Just a blank stick to beat the miners with. I mean, that's what they've turned it into. And it makes you, and what they do is it makes you feel like, oh, if you're not on board, then you're against the environment. It's like, no, that's not, I don't think that's what anybody's saying. I think everybody's for the environment. It doesn't make sense to be against the environment, but what does make sense is to use some ration and reason, have some parameters that we're following, and not just a Bitcoin miner bad. Eric saying, LOL, ask Pfizer for the due diligence. Yeah, right. Double standard all over the place, right? The standard that the miners are being held to, and I really do think this is a temporary situation. I think this has everything to do with the fact that the big money is not in Bitcoin yet. And what I'm talking about with the big money is you got the BlackRock type, there's $11 trillion there. You've got all the retirement accounts. You've got a lot of institutional money that is on the sidelines waiting for that clarity that they're going to get from regulations. So you've got 95% of the money possible in the market that's sitting on the sidelines right now as it pertains to Bitcoin and, the Bitcoin miners to a lesser extent. There are some people invested in that, but Bitcoin itself, most of the money is still on the sidelines. Yes, there's been a lot of adoption, and there's a lot more than there was. Small companies, big companies, there's a lot more wallets. You've got some high-profile names, obviously, out there that everybody knows pitching it, but we're at the very, very beginning of that. And, I think when we get, in my opinion, that's why we sit at Bitcoin 20,000, not Bitcoin 60,000. Eric said, "You got it, Tom. Thanks." I mean, that's what I think is reasonable, and that's why I did. If you guys want to watch I'm calling it a rant. I just read a letter that they wrote to Congress, to the EPA. And you guys be the judge if you think that it's fair or if it's rhetoric and hype, because that's what I'm against. Like I said, I think we probably all would have almost, very similar objective if we would just talk about actual game plan versus this hypothetical, you're either ESG or you're evil. That's that's what the conversation has devolved into, particularly around the Bitcoin miners. And I feel strongly that will not last forever. In fact, I think that's going to run out of legs sooner than people think, in my opinion. All right, this time I really am going to say good night and have a good weekend for real. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thanks for watching the videos. And everybody, please remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And just thanks, everybody. Oh, thanks for 10,000. We broke 10,000 subscribers. So thank you, everybody, for that. I think this is the first live stream we've had since that happened. I'll just read Samuel's saying one more thing. O'Leary is putting a spotlight on green energy because that's the one thing his company will have over the... Yeah, I mean, Kevin O'Leary is starting his own Bitcoin mining company. So any FUD that he has to say about Bitcoin or Bitcoin mining is, in my opinion, is just that, right? Because those people are all now his direct competitors. Bitcoin pumps, the green thing will disappear, says Eric. All right, thanks, everybody. Have an awesome weekend. I hope you guys made money this week, and I hope this thing runs next week. 23,000, that's what I'm hoping for. Thanks again. Have a great weekend.